Welcome to Behind the Scenes at the Hanover Theatre. Now, here's your host, Lisa Condit.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks so much for tuning in and listening. I have the distinct pleasure of being on the phone today with Michael McFadden. He is the artistic producer of Phoenix Entertainment, which, talk about behind the scenes, Phoenix Entertainment has a whole host of award-winning Broadway tours internationally, and Michael is one of the brains behind that. And today we're going to talk about their production of Camelot that's coming to the Hanover Theatre as part of our Broadway subscription series. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be with you today.
Absolutely. And so one of the really interesting things is that here we are, we're talking about a show that has so much excitement to it, but you're still in the works of putting it together because it's a brand new tour. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about what it takes to put a tour like this together?
Sure, absolutely. It's a process that I guess most people don't realize. A show like this, we kind of we've certainly been interested in this title for the last several years, but about a year and a half ahead of time, we once we secured the license for this property and began having conversations then amongst ourselves and other collaborative individuals that we wanted to bring on board. We're roughly, at this particular junction in our production process, we are just beginning the casting process, which will start next week in New York. We'll be there for a week, and then we head out to Chicago and then out to L.A. Before we hopefully have final casting done about 4 or 6 weeks after our first date here in New York. But right now, after as well as the casting process, we're also working out the physical production, and we've really kind of keyed into this kind of chamber musical aspect of this piece. We really viewed Camelot more as a play than as a musical is kind of where we started now to kind of get back to the root of it, and we really wanted to approach the more realistic elements of this production, and kind of were inspired by shows today like Game of Thrones, for example. Mm-hmm. We wanted to get back to the grittiness of the piece and to really figure out a way to heighten this kind of love triangle as we explored it. So that's where we are at the current moment.
Well, it's great because it's a story of the legend of King Arthur, who rules his kingdom with these new ideals, and he brings peace to the troubled land. But of course, there's some intrigue with romance and passion and betrayal, all those great themes that people, you get a little bit of it from the movies or TV, but there's nothing like live theater to totally experience it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we really want to get back to, obviously there is the love story that anchors, in terms of plot and stuff, but the symbols of hope and of truth, and of loyalty, to another, above yourself. There's something that's incredibly passionate just in terms of that belief system. So that's something else that we're excited to kind of really get into and kind of dirty up a bit.
Oh, right. One of the buzz phrases is Camelot, the story as you've never seen it before. And that's really important because sometimes when people think of titles that they've heard for a long time, they think, oh, well, what's going to be new about that production? And you hit on some of what's going to be new about this production, but it's so much more. Do you want to comment on that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, again, when it was first produced, in the 60s, 1960, I believe it opened in December of 1960. It was at that particular time, musical theater was a lot more lush and a lot more, I don't want to say superficial, but in a sense, it was more colorful. It was more about we say some lines and then we move to the song, and then we say some lines and we move to the song. I think the fact that this was based on a rather rich book, the T.H. White book, Once and Future King. There's a wealth of material in here about the struggles of this man trying to figure out, why this happened to him. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and then so we really want to get back to those kind of basics with it, and we really, as I said, looked at it almost Shakespearean. I mean, the quality of it. The first act, as we really looked at how it was first produced, was really kind of more of a romantic comedy, and whereas the second act is more kind of a reality-based kind of romantic tragedy. And so what we're trying to do is try to bridge that in a much more realistic way.
it's interesting, too, this is a little aside for you. Here in Worcester, this couldn't be coming at a better time because the whole city, this whole county is really focused on knights in shining armor for a different reason than you might think, because we have a world-class art museum here, the Worcester Art Museum, and it recently took over the collection from the Higgins Armory Museum. So there is a lot of play about what were those ideals from the Renaissance and really being able to integrate what's going on in our community with some cultural partners. So look next May. And by the way, this is Mother's Day weekend that Camelot is coming to the Hanover Theatre in 2014. I can't think of a better way to treat your mother like the queen she is, and that goes for my family too, for really great seats to a show like this.
I couldn't agree more, and I hope to be bringing my mom too, which would be great. She lives right outside of Boston, so.
Perfect. And let me just say that Michael really knows what he's talking about, because let's talk a little bit about Phoenix Entertainment. You're one of the co-founders of this international theatrical producing and management enterprise, and you literally work to deliver thousands of performances, over 100 live productions on 4 different continents. Can you talk a little bit about what that's like to balance all of these different new and tried and true types of productions? What do you have some kind of magic ingredients you look for that Camelot fits into? All of them.
Yeah, it's when you say it like that, it sounds like a logistical nightmare, doesn't it?
No.
We're very fortunate that we have. I certainly obviously have great people in this organization that work with me and my partner Steve Kane. We've been fortunate enough to really spend a lot of time internationally doing everything from Greece and the same revival titles to some new works in China, toward China. We are currently producing Peter and the Starcatcher, which is doing incredibly well on the road. But and also we're gearing up for it looks like a Addams Family, which looks like we've just been invited to go to the Macau Festival to represent the eastern part of the United States. It says, but anyway, there's a lot of opportunity out there, and we just are, two guys who really genuinely love what we do. We try not to take too big a bite when we're out there, and we've just been very lucky and are grateful that, like I said, we have great resources to work with us.
Well, we at the Hanover Theatre love what we do, too, and we're thrilled to be working with you and Phoenix Entertainment on this production. One of the things that I've heard is that this is going to be, an intimate and very fresh approach, as you've said, and never before has this story of passion and pageantry and betrayal been more captivating. You talked a little bit about how this production will have a more theatrical bent, but there are still some very beautiful classic songs that are part of the score. Do you want to talk about those at all?
Yeah, one of the things we're working with Stephen Bishop, an incredible arranger and orchestrator, and what we really are doing is kind of revisiting, these musical numbers, and we really want to find a way, as I said earlier, this kind of more chamber effect that we want, and we've kind of are playing with right now. We want this more of a Celtic sound. We want more. We want to hear, as opposed to the lushness of strings, we want to kind of thin out the strings, so to speak, and bring the cellos forward and lutes and all these other instruments that feel a little more organic, in terms, as opposed to feeling like a big, lush production number. We want it to feel, the intimacy. We want it to support the scene that's on stage. So I think the physical scope of the production that we're doing, as I said, it's going to be much more Shakespearean, with this kind of beautiful architectural pieces that our designer Kevin Deppen is designing right now. But I think the music is the key, and I think not to lose the intention and the heart of what those numbers are is something that we're working very diligently on right now. So we want them to feel, the songs to feel as recognizable to the audience, but certainly want them to hear them in a different way.
Absolutely. So we have about a minute left. Is there anything in particular you want to make sure that people know, or maybe you would recommend that people who might not be familiar with the story do? Favorite part that you want to comment on before we need to take a break?
I just think that, this is a great story, and it has very, to use the word traditional kind of values associated with it. And I think At its base, it really is about, the human frailty and fallibility, and this man who has the world thrust upon him, whether it be a politician or a king, these expectations and what he's supposed to be. But the reality is he's just another man trying to figure it out. And there's something very interesting about that juxtaposition. And I think that's when people come and see this show again. I think they'll understand, the pageantry of that era, but most importantly, the humanity of the people and the struggle, and trying to just figure it out.
Oh, I just cannot wait. This is going to be fabulous. I'm so looking forward to it. And I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you and your cast at the theater.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, and have a great day.